How to make beef tallow. Welcome to another episode of Primal TV. This episode is going to show how quick and easy it is to make tallow using raw beef fat, because it's such a healthy fat to have on hand to cook with, even to put on your skin. It's absolutely fantastic, so healthy for us and the environment. If you haven't seen my blogs about beef fat for better health, head down into the description below, click on the links, read those, understand why we're even doing this in the first place. So all you need is a slow cooker, some raw beef fat, and a jar and muslin cloth or something else similar to strain through. You need something quite fine to make sure that you're only left with the fat at the end of this. If you have any meaty bits left in your liquid, it's going to go rancid. So I'm using organic beef suet, which I get from an organic butcher, already grated and minced up. You can see close up, if you have a look, that there's some red bits on there. So that's sort of still a bit meaty. Any of that left out would go off. This is fat in its raw state. It wouldn't last on the shelf. It needs to be in the freezer to last long term, or in the fridge to last as long as fat lasts before going off, like meat. And once we're finished rendering this, it will actually be shelf stable and can last next to the stove or in the cupboard for a long time, and in skin products for a very long time as well. So that's how mine comes. The difference between suet and other parts of the animal is that this comes from around the organs. So in its raw state, it's said to be more nutrient rich, but for the purposes of making tallow and cooking it down, it doesn't matter if you use suet or other fat from the rest of the body. Either is fine, whatever you can get your hands on. So I don't need to use the whole container because I actually eat this raw every day on my meals. So I need to keep some raw in the freezer. Half of the container has gone into my slow cooker. It's on low because, as most slow cookers are these days, when they're new, they are very hot. So I don't need it to go at a blasting temperature. I just need it at a nice, low, slow heat to slowly melt this fat. It's fine that I've put it in frozen. You can put it in room temperature or out of the fridge, whichever you prefer, as fresh as you can get it, if not from the freezer. This is going to take at least a few hours to start really melting, and there's not much in here, so it won't take a long time at all to finish melting. But once it's all liquid, you'll see that there's liquid and then there's little bits still left in it that aren't going to liquefy. That's when it's ready to strain, and I'll show you how to do that. So the suet is melted and it's gone as far as I need it to go. The little meaty bits have gone nice dark brown but not burnt. So all the fat has been separated from the little meaty bits, the gristle, and you're just left with liquid fat. So the slow cooker was on low for a few hours because there wasn't much in here, so it didn't take long at all. And it's now ready to strain. So what you need next is a jar that suits the size of the quantity that you've got there of liquid. The muslin cloth doubled over with a rubber band. Now it's winter time here at the moment, so if I leave this too long to cool down, it will solidify. Just within less than a minute, a little bit of fat on my spoon has started to solidify. So just keep that in mind. Act quickly, otherwise it's much harder to get just the fat out without anything else that's going to go rancid. So it's important to do it while it's still warm, but not too hot to handle. Usually I fill this slow cooker with fat and it gets very, very hot because it needs to be on for a long time, and I have to be very careful when I'm straining it. With just this small amount, it's much easier to handle. So simply strain it into the jar, and the cloth will catch all the little meaty bits that you can then actually cook down a little bit more if you want to. Get them nice and crispy, add a bit of salt, and you've got beef crackling. That's great when you've got a huge batch. You end up with heaps of beef crackling, which is nice when it's a little bit warm. And you can bake it in the oven and get it a little bit crispier if you like, or you can give this to the dog or throw it out, whatever you want to do with it. It's up to you. Just keep going until your slow cooker's empty. You might need to get a silicone spatula just to scrape out the last bit of fat so you don't waste any. Then what I do is simply gently bring the fabric up off the jar when it's cool enough to touch. squeeze through any fat that's still in there on the little meaty bits. It's probably a nicer word for that, but meaty bits is fine, I think. It does the trick. Squeeze it out, all the fat's out. You're left with the hard, beefy, meaty bits. And then, of course, pure fat. Once it's done, if it's a cool environment, a cool day like it is here in winter for us at the moment, this will soon solidify and it will sort of be a whitish creamy coloured fat, and I will leave that next to the stove. I don't need to leave this in the fridge because I know all the other bits have been removed and it's just pure fat left over, so it's stable to sit out on the shelf without even a lid on it. You can put a lid on it, you can leave it in the fridge if you feel more comfortable. That's completely up to you. It is much harder to use once it's been in the fridge. It's much firmer, harder to get a spoon in there and get any out, but in winter it's kind of the same next to the stove as well. So whatever suits you. I will then use this for cooking. I use it on my cast iron pan. I use it to drizzle over when I'm baking. Sometimes I add it to my food after it's cooked, and I absolutely use it to make my own natural skin products. So stay tuned for some information on how to make tallow moisturiser, and keep an eye out on our newsletter for other beef fat related posts. I'm always putting out new recipes and new ideas, so if you have any questions about how to make tallow from beef suet or beef fat, please put a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be awesome if you could give it a like, share it with anyone else that might be interested, and I hope to see you on another episode of Primal TV.